Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to go for another creature feature, and this time I'm also going to tie in a little bit of a layering exercise in here as well. So sit back, enjoy. Let's make a weird critter. Alright, let's get her done. So, as you can see, we've got kind of a really weird looking form here. It looks kind of like a platypus in a way. I was thinking of something kind of basic with, forms we're all used to, ovals and such. But as you can see, I'm not using really contour lines at this stage with this drawing. Kind of different, huh? Yeah, look at the outside of them. These are all hatch marks. Strange. Well, as in the hatching demonstration, you can use hatch strokes to define the edges of your form. Now remember the difference between cross-hatching and hatching. Hatch strokes define your form. Cross-hatching is great for, say, texture and such. So hatching is perfect for fur, and so I'm blasting through this really quick. I'm just kind of going over the outside edges of my drawing here and kind of embellishing a little bit. Don't feel like you're railroaded into sticking to drawing on perfectly on the outside of your pre-drawing line. I mean, just look at the wing over here on the left side. I drew outside of that oval just because I felt that at that time it would match great with the composition. So once again, pre-drawing it's just a tool there to help you out. So you'll notice that the length of the fur, the length of my hatch strokes are different for the belly as opposed to the rest of, say, his head or the back or the wing. That's because his belly is a different type of fur. So here I'm just using hatching, going one direction in the mouth. I wanted kind of not really to define the inside of the beak type mouth thing, and then I'm throwing in some cross-hatching in here to give it kind of a rough texture. It really wasn't important to me, getting all the details in here. This is just kind of a fast image, but you can see an example of how cross-hatching works. And, one of the things for beginners is it's a temptation to immediately use really large strokes to fill in all those gaps. No. Be patient. It's like mowing a lawn. You can't mow the lawn in one big chunk. You have to do it in strips. And so just think like you're sewing, in a sense, only you're using hatch marks. And so right now, I'm starting to add in the value, adding in the texture at the same time. How do I do that? Well, as you can see, a lot of little hatch marks are very close together, and when they get close together, they get darker. Well, where there's more light, I space out my hatch strokes a little bit, and that gives it both value and texture at the same time. So his cheek fur here is a little bit different. I'm making smaller little strokes to make it look kind of puffy. I'm shading in the areas of where the light would not be, and naturally the only area where I'm not going to have any hatching is going to be where there's like absolute light hitting it, where your highlight's at. I'm at the point where I'm not blocking in my values at all, really. I've just kind of got an idea in my head on where the light is falling, where the light source is at, and it kind of evolves over the course of the drawing. So I'm shrinking the size of my strokes and spacing them out further where there's more light. That's to give it kind of a 3D effect. So always be mindful of your light source. Here in the armpit, I'm using the armpit to define the outside edge of his little hairy flipper. Use the shadow to do the drawing for you. And I just kind of jumped ahead there a bit. Now I'm adding value on his lighter, longer furred belly here. You can see just different stroke technique, and look how the direction of my strokes are going the direction of the fur. It's kind of a radial pattern, radial meaning like bike spokes, that they all come out from one central area, and that's the secret to drawing fur. And you'll see I go in there and I layer over those strokes even more. I go in on those light areas. I wanted his feet to be kind of dark, so you can see a good classic example of layering here. There was 3 passes over that one part of the foot. And skipping ahead to save time, you can kind of see how he has these shaggy, darker, weird-looking feet. And just going in, and by now I've got what I want down. The stress level of the drawing is very low at this point. I've already got all my forms factored in, and right now I'm just kind of sitting back and just kind of having fun layering into it and adding last-minute details and finishing touches. We have a good. You could think about the stress level in your piece as meaning, how focused and intense you are on it. And, if you're really having trouble on something, then your stress level is going to be high. If you've already got all that something drawn and you're just adding values and textures, there's really not much thinking involved. You're at the point where, you're just kind of doing it automatically. Finishing touches here, I'm going in and, as you saw, I darkened some areas just to add more contrast to it. and I'm going and adding more detail, darker areas still, and increasing, you know, some of the textures and so on. And I wasn't too happy with it. I thought, let's make it look a little bit more fantastic. So I figured, hey, let's put these little puffball antennas on him. And again, hatch the direction that the fur would be going. How do you know where that's at? I don't know. Look at stuff that's hairy. That's all I can say. And just looking in at the line work, some of the texture work. Computer work can be kind of sloppier. It would look different naturally. I decided, hey, let's give it some value in here with these puffballs, and still it makes it look a little bit better. And turning on and off the pre-drawing. So hopefully you found that helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in class. Take care.